Do you ever get to the end of the day and feel like you've actually done very little of what you meant to do? You didn't read any of that book, but you did spend ages doom scrolling on your phone. You didn't walk to work like you promised yourself you would, because you were running a bit late, because you were watching another episode on Netflix, while eating that sugary cereal you knew you probably shouldn't have bought last week. Have you ever waited for the right mood, the right energy, the right moment, and it just never really comes? Let me ask you something honestly. How many things in your life right now do you already know you should be doing, but you're just not actually doing? Just think about that for a second, because there's something we often don't realize, and it quietly holds us back, sometimes for years. It's not a lack of knowledge, it's not a lack of ability, it's a lack of something else. And this is something I've personally never been very good at. I tell myself, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm just not really up for it today. I need more clarity, more motivation. But that moment never really arrives. Hi, I'm John. I'm a husband and a dad of two young boys, and I spend a lot of time thinking about how my role as a dad is going to shape their future. How can I help them avoid the mistakes I made? Because I look back sometimes, and I think about where I could be if I'd just understood a few things earlier. So I spend a lot of time thinking about what actually makes life work. And one lesson that I think is incredibly important to learn early in life is this: discipline. Not the harsh, extreme version you see online. Not waking up at 4 a.m., doing ice baths, living like some sort of guru. That stuff is ridiculous, really. Most of us aren't living like that. I'm talking about something much simpler. Just everyday discipline. Doing the things you said you'd do, even when you don't feel like doing them. And here's the bit that took me a long time to understand. You don't need motivation first. That's the trap. Most of us are waiting to feel like it before we start. But it actually works the other way around. You start, and then the feeling follows. Not always straight away, but often quicker than you expect. Think about it. How many times have you put something off, and then when you finally did it, it wasn't actually that bad? Going for a walk, starting a bit of work, tidying something up. The hardest part was just getting started. If that sounds familiar, let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many people feel that. Because once you really understand this, you start to see your days differently. You stop asking, do I feel like doing this? And you start asking, am I going to do this anyway? And that small shift is where things start to change. Because every time you follow through, even on something small, you prove something to yourself, that you can be relied on. Not by other people, by yourself. And that builds a kind of confidence that's very different to what people usually talk about. It's not loud, it's not showy, it's just quiet, steady, and solid. Now here's something else. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right every day. Because that's not realistic. You're going to have days where you're tired, days where things don't go to plan, days where you slip back into old habits. That's normal. The difference is what you do next. Do you just leave it there and say, I'll try again next week? Or do you reset and get back on track the next day? Because over time, that's what actually shapes your life. Not the big dramatic changes, but the small things that you do consistently, even when it's inconvenient. Let me ask you something else. If you carried on exactly as you are now for the next 5 years, where would that take you? And if you made just a few small changes and actually stuck to them, where could you be instead? That gap is discipline. And the good thing is, you don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need some perfect routine. You just need to pick one thing, something simple that you know you've been putting off, and do it today, even if you don't feel like it, especially if you don't feel like it, because that's where it starts. And once you've done that, you build from there, slowly. And over time, you become someone who follows through, not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Now, I want to say something to my boys. There are going to be a lot of days in your life where you don't feel like doing what you should do. That doesn't go away, even when you're older. But don't let that decide the direction of your life. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to keep showing up, even in small ways. Because those small decisions, repeated over and over again, will build something much bigger. A life that feels steady, a life that works, and most importantly, a life where you can rely on yourself. And that's a really powerful place to be.